All right, so there's a brand new spiritual slasher film called Deer Camp 86, and this was originally released in festivals in like 2022, but it did not hit streaming until like this week or something. So it took quite a while to get there. Now, from the title and just a very small bit of trailer that I saw to this, I thought this was going to be a really silly, over-the-top, goofy-ass comedy. Because it is labeled horror comedy. And so I was expecting something just totally stupid. I watched another movie recently, which I don't even remember if I reviewed it or not, now that I come to think of it, because I don't even remember if I finished it. No, I did. I think I did review it and I finished it. Yeah. But I can't remember what the hell it's called right now. But it had a similar vibe to this, because it was like they ate tainted deer meat or something, and they all like freaked out on each other. So this one is about a group of friends who go up to deer hunt in 1986. And they go to this bar, the Peace Pipe, that's ran by Native Americans, and they are told kind of like, only take what you need, don't disturb the land and kill animals for no reason, and if you do kill a deer, make sure you like honor it and make it a mercy killing and all of this stuff. Then a big surprise happens that I actually wasn't expecting at all. And we move on from there, and they go up to do their hunting, and of course some of them don't abide by the rules set up, and they start getting picked off one by one by this entity, and it plays out kind of like a slasher. So the things I'll say about this movie is that I did like it, because I actually found the characters and the humor to work pretty well. That being said, though, the humor is actually toned down quite a bit here. There's a lot of like remarks and one-liners and over-the-top lines from some of the characters, especially the bigger guy. He has most of the jokes, but for the most part, I was actually pretty surprised by how serious this movie took itself at times. So that was kind of a welcomed surprise, because sitting through some super over-the-top goofball fest can be a chore. It depends. Sometimes it can be fantastic, like there's definitely movies that are goofy and silly and have a lot of like goofy gags that are funny as hell, and I have a great time, like the Feast movies, or or Piranha, or I guess anything written by Marcus Dunson and Patrick Milton. No, there's plenty of other things that I could mention here. Deadstream from last year, which we both loved, Kaylee and I, and we had a great time with, and was super fun, and had a lot of like funny ass moments. Although that one is a little bit more serious. That's actually probably a bad example. I'd have to get a little goofier than that from what I was expecting from this, but it's really not there. I actually was pretty surprised by that. The thing that brings this film down for sure for me is that it is a slasher, and in being a slasher, you don't absolutely positively have to have great kills, but with this film, the kills are terrible. They're either done off screen, or what we do see is like CGI blood splatter, no gore of any sort outside of like some blood, which I've never classified blood as gore. Blood can accompany gore for sure, as it should, but just like like an arrow, and then it kind of comes through the back, or like an axe in the chest, and it's just kind of wedged in there, and there's like a little blood around it or something, like those kinds of kills. So that was a huge shame, because with a movie like this absolutely should have crazy kills. As far as the look of the killer goes, I liked it. I think it fits the movie. Another issue with the film is that this is supposed to be set in 1986, and while you could argue everything in the film is maybe period accurate, I guess not really. I don't like, if you didn't tell me this was set in 86, I wouldn't think anything of it. Like I would be like, this is modern. That's fine. Like I wouldn't think anything of the time period, right? Maybe there's a couple little things like why don't they have cell phones, But I don't know. I might have just been like, they decided that they weren't going to bring them for this trip or whatever. But those are like the only things missing here to make this modern. Like I didn't feel like any of the styles of the outfits or the hair or the um, like the building, the establishments, the businesses, the cars, all that stuff like screamed 80s to me. The aesthetic, the music, like all of that stuff. Like none of that is really all 80s, right? Typically when we watch these slasher movies set in the 80s, they're trying to emulate the 80s. They do the synthesizer, they do the grainy film grain, they do a specific kind of title card, they do specific kinds of filming techniques and character, tropes and stuff like that that are homages to that generation that they're trying to emulate. And I just didn't feel that here. And with something like this, where you're set in the 80s, like it just feels like if you're gonna set it in 1986, then make it feel like the 80s. I just didn't really feel like that. So that was kind of a misfire for me with that title. So yeah, being a slasher that doesn't really provide the kills that you would want, and setting it in the 80s, but not really making it feel like it's the 80s, whether it's in the like aesthetic of it or in the like the sound and the vibe and all of that stuff. So I don't know. It's fine. It was watchable. I think it's a fun movie, and it has a pretty good message to it. I feel like once I kind of figured out everything that was going on and who it, what it was or whatever, and what all that meant, and I liked that. So I was 50-50 on it. If it had great kills, that would have really upped this for sure. I would have been reporting back like, yeah, this is really cool. But man, in slashers, you really want to deliver on those kinds of things, and they just don't here. So if it like felt like the 80s, they had cool soundtrack, and they got some pretty gnarly kills on screen with the character that they had and making the jokes that they were. Could the characters use more work and more depth to them? Sure, but this is a slasher. I don't expect anything too three-dimensional, right? That's not what I expect. If it was there, fantastic, but I don't expect it. But those other things kind of have to be there. So it's watchable, but I'm not disappointed. I'm just kind of like very mid on it. So that's better than I thought. Honestly, I thought that I was going to throw this on and shut it off after 5 minutes, and I got through the whole thing in one sitting. So, yeah, that's a positive into itself. So there you go. Let me know if you watch it. Adios.